Hey everyone. Tuesday message with Pastor Dan here. So small group has been meeting on Thursday evenings, and we picked one book, and the runner up book, Bethany and Pastor Bethany and I decided to make that the premise for our video. So for a while, we'll be working through this book. How do I pray? It's a pretty good book. There's some neat little exercises and experiments they call them, and ideas about prayer. And in the midst of all that's going on, um, these cycles of elections that feel divisive and pandemics and all of these things, unrest, it seems that we need to be praying, or probably are praying even more, with the levels of stress and frustration and all of that. So sometimes it feels like how is the question. So with this little book, we're going to roll through How Do I Pray? Jesus centered guides from group. It's pretty great. I'm going to just talk about some of the ideas in it from the first couple chapters to begin with, share some of the ideas, read some of it, some of the little pieces to you all. And yeah, I think the big thing that kind of popped out is our willingness to try something new with prayer. Um, for me, I used to. You guys know me. I'm a talker. So I delved into meditation. It's probably been 6 years now, 7 years, something like that. I've been here almost five. So I did that, sitting quietly and listening, and that changed my prayer life and my connectivity to God a lot. Um, and it came out of a willingness to explore something new. My friend, Pastor John Napoli, who is in Bloomington, Indiana, introduced me to it, and it really changed my connection to God. And so, yeah, there's this in the introduction, just this willingness. Be willing to rethink what prayer is and how it fits in your life. Be willing to experiment a bit. And be willing to be honest, because whatever else prayer is, it must be honest. Prayer is a place to meet Jesus, but it's a place where there's no room for hiding. Though it is a place with ample room to talk, laugh, and play. So get ready to actually enjoy prayer, to experience it in a way you've not experienced it before. Um, I love that. It's fantastic. We often think of prayer as this fancy worded, pastoral prayer on Sundays kind of thing, which I think is a problem in many of our prayer lives when it's something drastically different. And I want you to take a moment and picture this as I talk through it. Um, you've stepped into the perfect garden oasis. There's fragrant blooms on trees. You can smell the fruit. The beauty of the air is filling you. You can feel the grass. The sun is slowly sinking. You're overwhelmed with how perfect this garden is. You've never been anywhere as beautiful or as wonderful. And then you see them, a man, a woman, and walking between them, God. They're talking as they walk, about the day, about the garden, about life. Eve laughs. Adam tells a joke. It's a conversation between friends. It's a conversation and a prayer. God in his creation in joyful, relaxed intimacy. Prayer does not get any better. God in God's creation in joyful, relaxed intimacy. That's what prayer is supposed to be about. We get stuck in trying to say the right things, or those cycles of those kind of things, and trying to appeal to God. What God wants with prayer is that relationship that God has with us. A relationship. Friends. Um, Prayer is all about the relationship we have with God. It's all about trying to focus on that, focus on the conversations and those patterns. It makes me think back of those times in college where me and my friends, we'd be up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be like, "Whoa, what happened?" Well, we were just in this conversation where it was deep philosophical, whether it was about football, whether it was about whatever, but it was intimate, it was real, it was honest, it was authentic, and it just consumed us. And all of a sudden, it's the time has passed, and we're like, well, I've got a final in the morning. But it's that intimacy that God wants, that conversation that God wants. So we're trying to focus on the relationship with prayer. That's what prayer is about. So there's some weeds that need to be pulled out of our gardens when it comes to prayer. Um, the first weed is that there is no point in praying because God already knows. Okay, fantastic. God already does know. There's nothing you're going to say that'll surprise God. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't want to hear what you have to say. It doesn't mean that God doesn't want to have that relationship and hear all about your day or hear from your perspective. And it makes me think of parents. You know, the line that my mom or my grandpa would give me is like, "There's nothing under the sun that I haven't done that you're going to pull over on me," which was quite often true. But it didn't mean they didn't want me to have a relationship with them or to not do anything or not to be present. Um, God may know, but God still wants to hear from us. There absolutely is a point in building that intimacy, to build that with God and with one another. That's the point of praying. This says to delight God, to deepen your friendship with Him, and to invite Him to speak into your life, because that's what friends do. That's what friends do. They speak into one another's lives. Weed number 2, prayer is boring. True, sometimes. I've seen some prayers get kind of boring and long, and I remember a time Reverend Bill, I was asked to be liturgist when I was in college, and he said I was doing the offertory prayer, and he said, "Listen, you're not trying to do a sermon up here. Just thank God for the blessings we've been given and the blessings that have been given this day. Don't need to be in a sermon." So sometimes prayer gets boring because we try to get highfalutin and cram stuff in there. And then it gets boring because we're the only ones talking. We're the only ones communicating. And it's this pleading conversation. So it feels like it's not working, but it's only boring if we don't see it as a relationship. Set aside all the shoulds that are attached to prayer, like barnacles clinging to a boat. Scrape off the expectations of how you should pray, when you should pray, and why you should pray. Prayer is those moments of every day just connecting with God. Prayer looks a lot different for a lot of different people, and we're going to talk about it further in this book. But I know for people, dancing is prayer. I know for people, playing an instrument is prayer. I know the famous skateboarder, probably the greatest skateboarder of all time, this sounds ridiculous, named Rodney Mullen, who created the vast majority of tricks we know. He's a faithful believer. He was told once, watching him skate was like watching someone pray. And he said that was the greatest compliment I've ever gotten. So prayer doesn't have to be boring. Prayer becomes boring, that weed of it, when we treat it as a have to rather than a get to. And the final weed to pull today is that it doesn't work. Prayer was never, ever intended to be measured by how many requests were granted after you ran your list by God. How many of you go to friends and say, well, I want you to do this, 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 and give them a list and expect them to do all those things and make everything change? Well, that doesn't work. You soon don't have a friend anymore. God wants to communicate. It's about relationship and friendship. I'm really loving this little book. That's the first kind of 2 chapters. I want you all to be willing to try some of these experiments when they come up, to explore our prayer lives. I know these are probably going to be a little bit longer videos. I know almost mini sermons, but that's what happens when I get excited. I kind of ramble. But take time to find new ways to pray, to open up to listen. And we're going to explore some of those. So I really am looking forward to it. I hope you all have a great and blessed day. Talk to you soon.